Good evening everyone and welcome to the Global Fusion Music and Arts Poetry, Spoken Word and Music Night for October. This is a very special one because this is part of Black History Month and we have an amazing array of talent for you tonight. We're going to start with Antoinette Clark Akalane. She's based in Bristol and has been writing poetry since she was 7 years old. Her anthology was published in 2020 and she's recently been working on her second book. She's a frequent performer at our poetry, spoken word and music nights and is also a member of the GFMA writers group. So Antoinette, where are you? Hello Antoinette.
Hello, Sharon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for performing for us tonight.
That's fine, no problem. I love doing it. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Right. Now, what was it like for a teenager in the 1960s to come from the Caribbean to England? And I'm going to tell my story tonight in my poem. It's called Coming to the Motherland. From childhood, I wanted to be a nun, a nursing one. So at 18, when Enoch Powell invited me to come to England to train as a registered general nurse and work in Great Britain, I left Barbados and came to the motherland, the land I'd learnt to love, glorious England. Going there was an exciting adventure for me because I wanted to travel and the world to see. At school, I had read about Oliver Cromwell and Henry VIII, Queen Victoria and Shakespeare, and acted as Mark Antony in Julius Caesar. I recited English rhymes from my nursery reader and performed poems by Robert Southey and Wordsworth, and gustily sang traditional British songs with great mirth. Songs like Rule the waves and John Peel. Oh, how British I did feel. My bedtime stories were by Charles Dickens and Enid Blyton. I thought I was well prepared for my motherland, sweet England. I dreamt of daffodils and visualized snow on my skin. And I believed that I was ready to meet my English kith and kin. On the day of arrival, the sun shone brightly, and I disembarked the plane swift and sprightly. But it was freezing cold and frosty. I couldn't feel my nose or ears. I thought I'd lost them. They were there, but now stiff and frozen. And my fingers and toes had chilblains on them. I saw long houses with smoking chimneys. I thought these buildings were bakeries, but they are houses joined together in terraces, unlike Bayesian houses that are detached structures. And the only chimneyed edifices there are bakeries. The buildings were black, like those in Charles Dickens' stories. The color was caused by smog, a mixture of smoke and fog. Since then, clean air zones were introduced, and the buildings have been cleaned, and their true colors are now seen. As a first-year student nurse in the hospital named Derby City, my monthly pay was 10 shillings and pounds 40. That may sound miserly, but it was enough for me, as I lived in the nurse's home and all my meals were free. So was water, heating and lighting, and my laundry and the laundering of my uniform and mufti were all free to me. Sister Burns, the home sister, looked after me and the other student nurses who were Irish girls were really friendly, especially as I, like them, belong to the Catholic fraternity. Things aren't always what they seem to be. I knew about England, but the English knew nothing about Barbados nor folk like me. I was asked if Barbados was in South Africa or part of Jamaica. And a patient asked me if I lived in a tree. And I replied jokingly, yes, in 1955, Princess Margaret visited Barbados and she stayed in a coconut tree. The patient was not at all pleased with me and reported to the ward sister that I insulted royalty. The sister reported me to the matron and she punished me by insisting that I work until 5:30 instead of finishing my shift at 3:30. Another patient asked where my tail was hiding. I told her she looked carefully, she would see it wagging. I moved my dairy ear in a little jiggling. All the patients craned their necks expecting to see a tail wiggling and looked disappointed when they saw nothing moving. In the street, some people grinned at me instead of smiling. I thought this was how Derby locals smiled, though it was not charming. But I practiced it in the mirror and perfected grinning, and grinned back at any one who grinned at me. The grinners responded with a look of shock, and eventually the grinning stopped. On the bus, people refused to sit beside me. At first, this made me very unhappy. But eventually, I felt like a princess sitting separately with a spare seat for my shopping right beside me, while others crammed into a two-seater or stood and fell when the bus turned a sharp corner. It was later that people began to demand, will you move your shopping so I could sit down? I didn't like this, not one little bit, because I had got used to being a princess and resented putting the shopping on my miniskirt dress. A shopkeeper dropped the change into my hand, and a shilling rolled away, and somewhere on the floor did land. We searched for the coin but could not find it, so he refunded the coin, but this time in the palm of my hand he placed it. Some old ladies grabbed their handbags when I neared them, so I did the same. That stunned them. The nurse's canteen menu board featured toad in the hole or hot dogs. I went to bed hungry and missed many dinners because I could not face dining on such creatures. One day, it was bubble and squeak. I listened with great expectation, but no song came from this fried-up combination. I was invited by a friend to her mother's house to dine on spaghetti bolognese. When I finished the dish and was about to reminisce, the mother filled it up with more of the stuff. I was too polite to tell her I'd had enough. So slowly and painfully I finished that up. But she filled my plate again right up to the top. I was taught to close my fork and knife when I finished eating. I looked for the knife, but only a fork and spoon were at the seating. By now, I was bursting and felt as though I would swoon. I must have turned green or really looked bad, because the mother said, you look terribly sad. I could hardly wait to get her home to regurgitate, and still dislike bolognese up to today's date. For 50 years, I worked in the NHS. I started as a student nurse training in PTS and qualified as a registered general nurse, worked as a midwifery sister, senior psychiatric charge nurse and health visitor, and community practitioner nurse prescriber. In addition, I qualified and worked as a social worker. I retired in 2007 as a community nursing sister. I have got contentment and happiness. And I've turned racism and prejudice into strengths, achievements, and successes. Now retired, I am happy as can be. I share my life's experiences in my poetry. I have good friends and a loving family. I believe learning is lifelong, is a lifelong necessity, and that life should be lived until its fullest capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. That was a really wonderful insight into your life. Thank you so much for reading that to us tonight.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Right, next up tonight we have Betty Milton Gorvey, who is originally from Sierra Leone, but is now based in London and is a singer and writer. Betty has appeared on many of our GFMA writing and music events and has also been featured as the featured writer for poetry, spoken word and music nights. Also, Betty is here with us tonight.
Hi everyone. I'm doing a song that I wrote and recorded. I sometimes sing with my sisters, but Govi sisters. But I'm doing solo work tonight, you know. I'm doing a song called Hello Mama Africa to celebrate Africa. Here we go. Hello Mama Africa. Today, yeah. Hello Mama Africa. Today, yeah. Sing for Mama Africa. Today, yeah. Clap for Mama Africa. Today, hello Mama Africa. Hello Mama Africa. Hip 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 hooray. Shouts for Mama Africa if she's your native land. Clap for Mama Africa. Everybody stand. Hello Mama Africa. Hello Mama Africa. Hip 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 hooray. Shout for Mama Africa if she's your native land. Come on. Let us hear the sound. We love you, Mama Africa. We love your rising sun. We love you in the morning time and when the day is done. We love you in the evening. We love you every day. We love you in the noontime. That is why we say, Viva Africa. Shout, Africa. Dance, Africa. Long live Africa. Hello Mama Africa today, yeah. Hello Mama Africa today, yeah. Clap for Mama Africa today, yeah. Clap for Mama Africa today, yeah. Hello Mama Africa today, yeah. Hello Mama Africa, hip 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 hooray. Shout for Mama Africa if she's your native land. Clap for Mama Africa, let us hear the sound. Hello Mama Africa. Let us hear the sound. Hello Mama Africa. Let us hear the sound. Shout for Mama Africa if she's your native land. Come on. Let us hear the sound. We love you, Mama Africa. 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 You can join in the clapping at home or wherever you are. It goes clap, 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 clap. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Right. I'm just doing a quick presentation of some books I did lately, but very short. First of all, this one, I just wanted to give a quick mention to a legendary group called the Pioneers. As their name says, Pioneers were one of the early pioneers of reggae music in 1968-69. One of them on the far left, George Decker. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, George. I just said to give you a mention. And this is one of the books I will call The Legend of the Pioneers, as they're real legends. Yeah. Right, these two books I did recently, A Tale of Five Shirleys and Women of Many Firsts. Live, of course, there's Shirley Bassey here, Shirley Temple. A lady here from my country, Shirley Rogers Wright. She was a principal for over 35 years, and she was named after Shirley Temple. This particular lady here called Shirley Chisholm, she was born in 1924, 100 years from today. And I just did a write-up about her in this book. And she was an American politician who in 1968 became the first black woman to be elected to the United States Congress. She represented New York's 12 congregational districts for 7 terms from 1969 to 1983. In 1972, she was also the first black candidate for a major party nomination to run for President of the United States. And she was also the first to run, woman to run for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. So Shirley Chisholm would have been 100 years old if she was alive now, but 1924, this year is her 100th year. She passed away in 2005. So it's a book I wrote recently called A Tale of Five Shirleys. Yeah. And it's other book, Women of Many Firsts. It's the first women, black women that were first to do anything in their countries. This lady in particular, Enna Collymore Woodstock, she's 107 years old and she's still alive. She was born in 1917. This is her here when she was young, and this is her here. Okay, this lady here was the first woman lawyer in Sierra Leone, and I just gave Kamala Harris a mention here because she was the first black woman vice president in America. So dealing with Enna Collymore Woodstock, a write-up in the book for you to just have a background about her. Enna is 107 years old. She was a Jamaican barrister when she was young and magistrate, who throughout her career had to overcome obstacles as she broke many barriers for women. She smashed glass ceilings that were blocked for women. After being orphaned when she was born, she joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, and she worked in World War II for Britain and Belgium as a radar operator. When the war ended, she earned a law degree and returned to Jamaica. She became the first woman court clerk and crown solicitor and resident magistrate. They used to call her the smiling magistrate because she said she was always smiling and happy. When the juvenile courts were established in the country, she survived as its chair from 1964 to 1967. And then as a magistrate, she retired in 1977. All right, so that was my presentation that I had to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Betsy, and I hope everyone at home enjoyed that as much as we did in the GFMA office. Thank you very much. Right, so now we're going to move on to Yemma Martz, who is a fantastic poet, writer, singer and actor who is based in Plumstead. Yemma is a regular at poetry, spoken word and music nights, and is also part of the GFMA writers group. Yemma, are you there? Are you there, Yemma? Okay. Maybe Yemma will join us in a little while. Maybe she's still dancing round to that music. Maybe she's still got that flowing through her body. So now we will move on to Wayne Samuel, who is a poet and fiction writer who is actually appearing for the first time tonight on Poetry, Spoken Word and Music Night, live from Nigeria. His online portfolio says, "What happens when you mix the limitless AI with an education in mass communication, then spice it up with storytelling, poetry and creative marketing experience, and add in a mind that detests, abhors, discriminates and rebukes the idea of normal." Sounds interesting, doesn't it? Can't wait to hear what else you've got to say, Wayne. Where are you, Wayne?
I'm right here. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I don't know if we can actually see you yet, Wayne.
Yeah, so I have a presentation, and I realized the only way I could really ensure that you see it is if I darken the room. So after this performance, I'll turn on the lights so we can meet each other. But during the performance, I'll just leave it dim like this so you can see the display behind me. Does that work?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you. So this poem is titled The Plane Crash. I'm going to blend spoken word poetry with visuals, with sound, and it really is just telling the story of, I think, humanity, our shared humanity, and it's a callback to what's happened, and it's also a projection into the future. And I hope that it speaks to you. I hope that you enjoy it. April 5th, 2062. An aircraft carrying 86 passengers fell out of the sky. The plane fell like a fallen star, twinkling in the eye of all 12 witnesses who would later testify that the event was like a nightmare that would leave them terrified. At the sight of the crash, nothing survived. Nothing but propellers spinning in the dark of night. The aircraft caught flames reaching high, looking like a rainbow made of smoke and fire. And nothing survived. Nothing survived except the black box. Nothing survived except the black box. The black was a container of all the memories of that flight. The black box carried the music, the musings, the sights, so that when the ambulances and the coroners and the anthropologists arrived, standing in the furnace, the grand, glorious light, only the black box could tell them all that they needed to know. And so the black box told them all that they needed to know. The flight started 70,000 years ago when Homo sapiens first boarded the plane. Some sat in first class in the rolling hills of Europe. There were Mongols and Vikings. They liked things like war and plunder. When the air hostess came along, they never asked for water. They preferred champagne, fine wine, bubbling red from the severed vein of every land they could set their eye and their knife and their guns and their nuclear bombs to. Flying first class in the air made them heirs and heiresses of Spanish inquisitions and the art of Africa and all the glinting gold their platoons could bring back. First class had these luxurious reclining chairs so they could sit back, relax, and watch the rest of the world try to catch up like it was a race. But it wasn't a race, it was a flight, and you were stuck in place. Those in second place were the men and women in business class. They had enough leg room to step on you with trade deals that put you in debt. They were tired of being big shepherds wearing moleskin, so they put on suits instead. And when the pilot spoke to them, he said, "Put on your mask before helping anyone else." Forget about restraints, don't wear your seatbelts, and smoking is allowed as long as all the windows of opportunity are closed so the working class can't vent, that they'll never reach the heights of your publicly funded private jets. At the airport, they put fashion on the runways, they put sex in the cockpit, they carried empires in their luggage, they were the movers and shakers that caused the turbulence in all age and all time. In their spare times, they liked to sketch and drew Carnegie in a heap of cash that would stretch further than the comfy chairs of business class where they laid their head and let it rock a fella to sleep so they could dream the industries that Cornelius Vanderbilt and they could carry forward ahead. Up next was economy. The kind of people who always talk about the economy. The economy class was filled with those who failed astronomy. They could never figure out what happened to their lucky stars. Their body parts were mangled together in the tight cities of tight third world countries. Economy class went hungry while the others feasted. Whoever first class went to war with, economy class enlisted. Economy class existed at the base of the plane that had shape-shifted into a triangle. They would try and roll their way to the top, but it was tough. Their ticket was not for the best seats in the house. Truth be told, they were barely allowed on these flights. They scrimmaged for what was left, and to appease them, first class gave them rights that could come and go like the moon on a cloudy night. But when that plane in the future of 2062 went down that night, everybody went down with it. Black, Asian, white. The black box told them all about the things that caused the crash. These sapiens, they were burning more fuel than the earth had in its tank. They were fighting too many wars. They were too concerned with rank. They became wingmen with capitalism, and now those wings refused to flap. They gave themselves over to greed, and those kinds of givers always lack. They thought they could race against the wind till the wind blew them back. In the end, the sky was the limit. And when that plane went down, everyone went down with it. Some called it a plane crash. Some called it the apocalypse. When that plane went down, it was blown to bits. All that fine metal torn apart. But the black box remained because black don't crack. The black box remained because the future never dies. It's in our DNA, the safest seats on this flight. And believe it or not, black is not a race, it is a place inside the box. The box isn't a box, it is a place inside of us, a heritage. And believe it or not, black is not a race, it is a place inside the box. The box isn't a box, it is a place inside of us. And I mean all of us, black, Hispanic, Muslim, Roman Catholic, the disciplined and those who live by habit, introverts and those who speak the loudest. We all have a part in this, it has a part in us. And one day, this new age will crumble into dust, and all our music, the beliefs that we swear by, will be smoke trails in the sky. Only the black box will survive, but that's fine because it carries everything, not just the data of a race, but of every human being who first became sapient, who first became sentient, right here in the ancient streams of Africa, emerging from a cave. Emerging from the dark, we broke the code of reality, a high-level hack. So if the plane should burn, if the plane should crash, every future annihilation is already in the past. And once you go black, you're never going back. See that? Thank you.
Wow, Wayne, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to perform for us tonight, as it's your first time?
No, that's my one and only for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. As I'm sure you'll all agree, that was very thought-provoking. Thank you very much for coming all the way from Nigeria live for us tonight. Thank you, Wayne. We'll have you back again. Right, now we're going to move on to Jacqueline Waziri. She is a poet, storyteller and writer from Tanzania, and she's an author of the amazing anthology Moana, a very, very popular performer at the GFMA Poetry, Spoken Word and Music Nights. Jacqueline, where are you?
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hello. So amazing to be here with you all. I don't know what's happening with my camera. I'm trying to switch it on. I'm so sorry. There's difficulties there. But the poem I'm going to be reading for you today is called Letter from my book Moana, and it goes like this. I decided it's best to write this letter in English, as some of you left when you were very young and forgot your mother tongue. I have enclosed 2 pictures of you and I. First picture, you dug 12 holes, 6 on each side, in the ground and played with stones, touch of earth. Because I have seen similar pictures of you, but without I. First picture, you are holding the carved wooden board, carved 6 pits on each side, played with seeds. And the other, I'm still wondering, they don't quite match the touch of earth, of you and I. I promise to keep this letter short and sweet so that you don't dust it away. This was just a ground reminder that I miss you. Yours truly, African Soil. Thank you so much. And the second poem I'll read for you is called Melanin, very, very short, again from my book Moana, and it goes like this. Visible in the skin, preserved by the sun, it colors the bark on trees, the soil of earth. Black ground echoes essence, preserving our past, protecting our future. Central source nature, deep pigment treasure, ancient most giving gift ever, lasting melanin. Visible in the skin, preserved by the sun. It colors the bark on the trees, the soil of the earth. Black ground echoes essence, preserving our past, protecting our future. Central source nature, deep pigment treasure, ancient most giving gift ever, melanin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Is there anything else you would like to read for us tonight? Because that was so lovely.
I could do a poem called Village, another short piece in my book Moana. Village was inspired by the love and the feeling I had when I was in Tanzania. And it goes like this. Love flooded over our small round village. Its warm, long greetings held you as daylight arrives. Among the greenness of youth sprung hope. Its warm smell of belonging preserves our circle of light. Soft rise of the moon rests you peacefully. Love flooded over our small round village. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Could we possibly squeeze one more out of you?
Sure. Thank you so much. So the other one, I think I will read a poem called A New Generation. And suddenly the rain washed away old evil, and the sun smiled on a new generation. And the path looked so clear to where you can taste fresh air. Then the buried tongue resurrected, and having tasted the new day, its voice was held both equally and protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline, for being such a brilliant performer tonight. Thank you so much. And now we are really, really lucky because as Betty is here with us, she is going to perform again. So welcome, Betty.
Thank you, everyone, for the warm welcome. Yes, I'm actually doing other books that I didn't mention earlier, but because of the time space I had, but I'll just do it now. This book, this one is called Africa's Forgotten War Heroes in Another Man's War. And I wrote that one, and I wrote this one called The Diplomat's Daughter. That was me here. My father was, he trained as a barrister at law, but he was an ambassador, high commissioner in 15 different countries during his time. And I wrote of our adventures around the world and his work that he did in this book. And this one, I'll start off with this one, Africa's Forgotten War Heroes. As Martin Luther King once made a saying, he said, 1 month is not enough to tell Black history. But, and it should be like world history, it shouldn't be separate, but because it wasn't recognized, so that's why we have to do Black history. But I mentioned these gentlemen that were soldiers. This man, it was called Sergeant Sori Samuel Sese from my country, Sierra Leone. He died when he was like nearly 102. He fought for the British in Burma as a young man, 1943. There's some accounts that he told me, because I used to interview him personally. Some account he told me that there was a war on the date I like, 4/4/44, 4th April 1944. And according to some books, it was saying it's a bloodiest battle in the history of all of Britain, but it was never mentioned. So I used to interview him a lot, and I mentioned it in there. Well, my grandfather on my mother's side, he too fought in the First World War and the Second World War. So I'll just quickly read an extract from the book. There's lots of them were made, this was their logo, a spider. And he mentioned here, this gentleman here. Our division's badge was a spider in black on a yellow circular background. It was established as the first West African frontier force. On 1st March 1943, and then 3 days later, it was renamed the 81st West African Division. And this spider was a reference to the spider called Anansi that you normally see in the storybooks. There are soldiers from Nigeria, Gambia, East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, North Africa. All of them fought for the French and the British during the war. But we didn't see anything written much about them in history, so I decided to write a book called Africa's Forgotten War Heroes in Another Man's War, because it wasn't their war. But anyway, some of them are still alive. Some of them are like 103, 105. Yeah. And I mentioned them in the book. So it's worth reading. One of my other favorite people from, not necessarily because he was from Sierra Leone, but Johnny Smythe. He was from Sierra Leone, and he ended up being caught as a war prisoner. And he has accounts he gave about his time when the Germans caught him as a war prisoner. So this other book, The Diplomat's Daughter, my father used to write for the president of Senegal, Leopold Senghor at the time. They were friends. I met Leopold Senghor several times. And he used to call my father the president's poet. And they would meet sometimes and share poetry because Leopold Senghor used to write. He was the first president of Senegal after independence. And he was born in 1906. He passed away in 2001. So my father wrote a poem celebrating the river, that what you would call Victoria Falls. The native name was Mosia Tunya, which means the smoke that thunders. The river borders between Zimbabwe and Zambia, but David Livingstone, the British explorer, named it after Queen Victoria. So I'll just read a poem about Victoria Falls that my father wrote, because I just said to share the poem for Black History. He's celebrating the river. He said, we celebrate you, iconic river, River Zambezi. You flow the River Nile and you follow the Congo River, Zaire and the Niger. You flow through 6 countries and you interestingly form the border of Zambia and Namibia, Zambia and Botswana, and Zambia and Zimbabwe. You flow over several waterfalls. By far, you're the most notable feature and known worldwide as the mighty Victoria Falls, what is known to the locals as Mosi Atunya, which means the smoke that thunders. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world and a World Heritage Site. You run through many game reserves and national parks and provide sustenance to a diverse array of game, bird life and fish species. How I long to go sunset cruising and tiger fishing on a fascinating watercourse while seeing and admiring your beauty.
Thank you, Betty, for that. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. Shall we just see if Som Konto is here? Som Konto, are you there? No? Oh, that's such a shame. Antoinette, are you still available? Would you like to read anything else for us?
Oh, hello. Well, I'll have to go downstairs and get my book. I'll go downstairs now then, if you...
Okay, you go downstairs and get your book, and I shall chat away to you all about GFMA. So, as I'm sure all of you know, Global Fusion Music and Arts is a local charity based here in Charlton, but we are a charity and we are run purely by volunteers. And we would love people to give donations, to become members. It's an amazing charity. Tonight is just one of the events we put on. We also have events at Mycenae House. We do festivals when we get the funding. But just come along, enjoy. We do as many free events as we can for people, and we are an amazing charity. There's always something for everyone. We are Global Fusion, we are diverse, as you might be able to tell from tonight. So please, tell your friends, come along. You'll never know what you're going to see here, but you will enjoy it. So please, everyone, get involved with GFMA, Go Global Fusion Music and Arts. And if you can see, I've got my, maybe you can't see, my GFMA Records t-shirt on. We have our own record label, so please look online. There's on Bandcamp, there's something for everyone, I promise you. We're just waiting for Antoinette to come back with her book. I can't wait for this. I'm sure it will be very, very interesting. We're just going to have a quick little break, okay? See you soon.
Hello, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. We're just going to have a little quick break, okay?
Okay.
We're back, yes. Thank you, Antoinette.
Hi, shall I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am a researcher for the SS Great Britain here in Bristol. So last year I researched about the Great Western ship, paddle steamer. It was Eisenberg Kingdom's Brunel first ship. He was the designer of that ship before the SS Great Britain. So I'll read the poem now. By the way, the Great Western is going to be recreated and brought back to Bristol in 2027 as an interactive theatre. This is called the SS Great Western, A Little History. The Great Western steamship was the first purpose-built ocean liner to travel from Bristol to New York, America. She was the brainchild of Eisenberg Kingdom Brunel, the civil engineer who designed her. At that time, steamships were small and confined to shallow waters, where they steamed on canals, lakes, and rivers. With professional expertise and exceptional vision, Brunel knew that purpose-built steamships could cross the Atlantic Ocean. Despite critics like the scientist and lecturer Dr. Ladner, who argued that transoceanic steam navigation would be a disaster because of discordance of the hull's carrying capacity and the drag of water. Brunel used mathematics to prove that this idea was a misnomer. And in 1836, he commissioned William Patterson and his team to build her. She was Brunel's dream to extend the Great Western Railway from London to America. Patterson and his team worked around the clock, constructing the Great Western steamship on Wapping Wharf's dry dock. They made the hull of English oak and Polish pine, and she was iron-strapped. Her keel was over 62 meters. At that time, no other keel had attained such measures. She had a registered tonnage of 1,340, and her length was 230 feet, 35 feet, and beam 58 feet wide. 2 iron paddle wheels were fitted to her hull on either side. These would propel her through the ocean waters and smash through ice if she was caught in frozen waters. She was fitted with 2 steam lever side engines by Maudley, Son and Field, and 750 horsepower. These 2 engines yield. 4 masts with auxiliary sails helped to propel and stabilize her when she was caught in treacherous seas or stormy weather. There was space for 128 first-class passengers, 20 servants, 60 crew, and officers. The saloon looked palatial, with its gilded pillars painted bold, and its magnificent accommodation was worth its weight in gold. Her figurehead was Neptune, holding a gilded trident that in the sun shone brilliant and vibrant. SS Great Western steamship was launched on 19th July 1837. This was witnessed by an estimated crowd of 50,000. The occasion was marred when a large bulk timber fell on a ship's right head, fracturing his skull and striking him dead. On 31st of March 1838, the Great Western left Bristol on her maiden voyage to New York, with Brunel and his associates Thomas Guppy and Christopher Claxon aboard, while Lieutenant James Hoskins was the captain on board. Soon after departure, a fire broke out in the engine room, and Brunel hurried down the forestoke hole to investigate, but he fell 20 feet when a burnt ladder rung did disintegrate. His fall was broken when he landed on Claxton. Little damage was done to the Great Western steamliner because Claxton had quickly put out the fire. The maiden voyage was delayed by this disaster, but on 8th April 1838 the voyage restarted. This time, only 7 first-class passengers embarked because of fear of the tragedies that had previously occurred. For 2 years, the SS Great Western was the largest passenger steamliner, sailing majestically and gallantly across the ocean water, conveying first-class passengers from Bristol to New York, America. At that time, sailing ships took up to 35 days to make this journey, but SS Great Western only took 14 days to complete her itinerary. She steamed for 8 years across the Atlantic Ocean to and from New York, making 45 crossings in 8 years doing this work. She carried 4,318 passengers eastward and brought 3,357 westward. On 12 December 1846, she ended this touring journey. And on 11th March 1847, she was sold to the Royal Mail Steam Packet Company, where she steamed between Southampton and the West Indies, completing 14 voyages between 1847 and 1853. From 1853 to 1855, she made 9 trips on her South American journeys. Between November and December 1848, a Black Martinican, Auguste Francois Perinon, an anti-slavery abolitionist and politician, traveled first class on the SS Great Western. Perinon was pivotal in bringing to Martinique the abolition decree that officially set the colony's enslaved people free. In 1856, the Great Western steamship served as a troop ship during the Crimean War, carrying soldiers between UK Malta and the Crimean Peninsula. Some of these troops were cared for by Mother Seacole, a Black British Jamaican nurse named Mary Seacole, who used her own funds to travel to the Crimea early in 1855, where she ministered to sick, injured, and dying soldiers whom on her relied. She rode on horseback into the battlefield to carry out some of her duties, even when under fire from snipers and gunners. The SS Great Western was scrapped and broken up in August 1856. Only her great bronze bell without its clappers still exist, with its engravings, SS Great Western Steamship 1837. But the bell will chime again in 2027 when a life-size replica of SS Great Western Steamship is unveiled in the Albion Dock for visitors and tourists to learn about her and with her virtually interact. Thank you. So
Thank you so much for that, Antoinette.
yeah. May I add that this poem is now in schools here in Britain, in Bristol?
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for that, Antoinette. That was really interesting. Thank you so much. And now it's time for a short break whilst we wait for our featured artist for tonight, Som Koto. So we're just going to have a very quick break and then we'll be back with you. Thank you. welcome back everyone, and now we are ready to welcome Zom Konto. His spoken word name, Zom Konto, happens to be his bloodline's totem. He is a spoken word artist, storyteller, youth mentor, qualified community services worker and grassroots community organiser. He considers himself an Afro empath and is driven more than anything to ensure that people find joy in the power of words and storytelling. Can you give a big welcome for Zom Konto, all the way from Canada? Good evening, Zom Konto. It's lovely to finally see you.
Lovely, lovely to see you all. Thank you for everybody who made time out of their day to join me in my presentation of love. And I hope that this will be worthy of your attention and time. So God, come on.
Sure.
So you ready?
We are all ready.
Okay, so welcome friends, family and fellow seekers of truth. Tonight we gather not just to witness words, but to honor the spirit, the resilience, the fire of a people whose roots stretch far beyond borders, and hence why I'm joining you today. We stand on the shoulders of those who came before us as people of African diaspora, as people of the entire people of African descent. So those who came before us, whether they be farmers, sailors, scholars, freedom fighters, builders of hope, carving paths in lands that didn't always see them, but whose brilliance could never be ignored. We begin by acknowledging that the past, although sometimes littered with beautiful, strainless melody, it is often an ugly thing. So the past is a beautiful, beautiful, ugly thing. And we often walk off the cliff after the what ifs have untied its loose ends. And in our haste to tie them back up, like other quick fixes, our pace quickens and it unravels some more while we still believing that we're walking, not really checking how fast we're going, only obsess with going somewhere into the future. The past is beautiful and ugly at the same time. Like flowers on graves, like an abandoned lighthouse by the sea, ignored by both the tidal waves and the bridal trains from visitors who wave in sharp lacerations of rejections, taking photographs as if to marry everything else into the picture, except the weight of the grief that the lighthouse carries. That grief of that sunken ship that was buried on that fateful day that the lighthouse wasn't on and the ship sunk to the seabed. As I speak, there is a past somewhere, sweating profusely in between the pages of history books that took away the sound of its own name. There is a proverb that struggles to find peace in the rubble of a war that it warned people to heed. There are buried bones singing the songs of the children who whispered that song the entire distance towards their unmarked graves. And if you look closely, you can see the fragments of the kitenge fabric that dug into their mothers' backs as their fragile souls tightened to the force of the barrel of a gun. You can see a boot dig into the ribs of Steve Bantu Biko, feel the echo of silence when MLK's slim body touched the balcony floor. A beautiful, ugly thing. Like a freedom fighter, he hung in his best suit with a love letter in his front pocket that they will burn the moment his legs stop moving. And the mother to whom it was written, coming back on that same night to kneel at his dangling feet and plant a tree. My black history is such a thing. It grows where lifeless bodies dangle over it, where shell cases smell of loud screams that pierce the eyes of the unborn, yet beautiful like songs that bring funeral processions to their Colin Kaepernick knees. I once asked an old man why he walked barefoot. He said, "Son, new shoes are beautiful only when you have somewhere to go. They mean nothing when you get there. And the past, once you untie its loose ends, you can't tie them back again. So absorb the beautiful. retain the past, because someone has to write about your great grandmother and how she was taller than baobab trees, planted at the dangling feet of our ancestors like spirits of future songs hanging in the nighttime air, the soles of their feet, beautiful and ugly at the same time. Zomkhonto, Kavatela, Mzilangata, Bangazita. Thank you.
Well, that was really, really enjoyable. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I do have to ask you a question though. That name, Zomkhonto, where is it from? It's amazing, that name. I mean, I've just got a boring old name of Sharon. I wish I was Zomkhonto, let me tell you. That is a truly amazing name. Where's it from?
I don't believe that names are any different wherever. The name is in the spirit of the naming. The name is in the emotion present at that moment that we come out and embrace the world for the first time. So the character of the naming is more pleasant to me. And for me, Zomkondo is actually my ancestral name. So we have this thing that every generation before, they're added to a piece of poetry of their times, of their achievements, of their triumph, of their presence in here. So the surnames accumulate. So I am Bonisi. My addition as time goes by will be according to my deeds and my contributing to my ancestral line. So my surname is Zikali, right? So Zikali means an arsenal of weapons. And the extension being my ancestral name is Zomkondo. So it's an arsenal of spears because Umkondo is a spear. So Zikali Zomkondo, arsenal of spears. That's what it means. And then it's followed by all the other names of those before me. Mzilangata, Zomkondo Kabatela, Mzilangata, Mpangazita, Ngwane Kangwadi.
So it carries on and it carries on and it
Carries
carries
on. So the surname keeps getting reborn and given more titles throughout generations. So I hope that my contribution will be well received by those that are to come after me and preserved in that same spirit.
Oh, I'm sure everyone will be so impressed. I really do. Your ancestors, those to come after you, those here now, most definitely. So, tonight is about Black History Month. How does your work encompass Black History Month?
Well, it encompasses is in the sense that, Black history, whenever we have these commemorations, uh, we are often, pushed towards a history that is more anecdotal than a history that tells of where we would set the dimensions of the beginning of our history. Because there's been so much that's been spoken about in terms of our history being slavery. Across the planet, there is this misnomer that our history is of our scattering out from all these places in the chaos of the times, right? But the history before that, what is it? What predates that? I believe that's when, people like poets then tap onto that energy field, and bring out those voices that even though we can't put a face to at any, in the way that documentation happens, we can put faces to what we imagine they would have said, since they were alive for so long for us to be born here. We didn't just get born by the ancestors after slavery or colonization or all of these other isms. We were born way before, the time where people set milestones. We don't set milestones. We said we said a loud voice to the table to speak for them who we can't see.
This is very true, very, very true. What I wanted to ask you was, how long have you been writing? You've got a brilliant way with words, but how did that all start?
I won my first poetry certificate when I was 8 years old. So I
Wow.
believe that poetry has nothing to do, because sometimes when I say, okay, I do poetry, I meet certain people who might think that my poetry, conforms to a certain standard that has been, given to people. Poetry is a spirit. I say we don't do poetry; we are poet free. Like it's that freedom to really pry open into all of those layers of expression and find the ways of language that are unbound, because there are certain, corners of the world where there's poetry happening now. But if someone said, oh, Papua New Guinea, for instance, has its own form of language, or there's some undiscovered civilization we don't even know about, oh, they have their own set of poetry, even though in the way we look at things, we would think of them as barbaric because they are not civilized. Poetry is in those spaces where expression is valued. Wherever there is humans, there is expression, there's poetry, there's ways of capturing words. So if some of my poetry does not appeal to people in the sense that its structure is not this way or that way, that's fine. But in my understanding, I will not stop if that is what I believe poetry to be. I don't believe that 8-year-old in me who walked to the stage and received the certificate was saying, yes, finally I speak poetry. No, maybe my birth was the poem itself, because it allowed the rest of that poetry to pry me open from when I was a baby, starting to learn to see, starting to learn to speak, and creating this language that I still embrace today, poetry.
Thank you. That was a brilliant way to answer the question. That's perfect. Thank you so much for that. I think now would be a lovely time for you to perform something else. Would that be
Okay.
possible?
Sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, so the previous one was speaking about that world where history is beautiful and yet ugly, and I ended it off with my ancestors, yeah, thinking of their feet dangling above us, and so in the underbelly of our ancestors' feet, we find these stories that we tell, woven with pain, perseverance, and pride. Our ancestors endured chains, but their spirits never broke. They crossed seas, built homes, raised futures, turned silences into song and oppression into strength. And so at times I just sit back and I think to myself, whoa, who would have thought? Who would have thought it would be here? So who would have thought that black folk would wave words of cash thicker than their majestic lips, thicker than sheets of smoke that rose when they burned down Black Wall Street, not knowing that we would rise from those ashes like a phoenix, and that matchsticks just happened to be our next of kin, black diamonds that this world refused to dig until it became too obvious how bright we shine under this skin, that the layers of wealth that run underneath this melanin, our soul.
All right, then. Well, I'm not going to call him now this time of the night, but I'll give him a call in the morning.
For that, we
Black
just had an
diamond.
interruption. Sorry, carry on, please.
It's all right. It's okay. Black diamonds that the world once refused to dig until it became too obvious how bright we shine from under this skin, that the layers of wealth that run underneath this melanin are a sworn testament unto themselves, that the veins that connect to the power grid in our ancestral names means that we are not just dark-skinned but see through the dark. And with these proud thick lips as the light switch, we spoke loud and bright as lightning, rewriting the future in the same handwriting as Mansa Musa. Who would have thought that from a laughing stock to owning stock, black folk would turn the auction block on its head, choosing instead to bid on each other's genius, with each and every one of us as the highest bidder. Who would have thought it possible that we would melt down the chains that bind us into coins for a currency our very own, and every piece of wood in the slave ships that confined us would become the bookshelves for a history that knows no revision, with a description of every single mineral they stole. Because who needs 40 acres when we are several planets of land short? What does one do with a single mule when there are countless heads of beasts that were driven over the cliff? Who needs to be painted with the same brush when we are such an explosion of color which needs several forests of trees to account for the brush strokes? We are the new canvas, painted with shades of ebony and natural gold. We are the marbled streets of resilience that pour out of the avenues of an infinitely rich legacy. We are the bustling rhythm of a rekindled dream upon which Black Wall Street rises at last, not a mere echo of the past, but as a symphony of redemption, conducted by the hands that once counted their losses in tears, not as a metaphor of our reputation, but a reclamation of wealth beyond currency to that of identity, dignity, and the unyielding belief that despite the shadows of the past, we still cast bold silhouettes upon the pages of present time. Zomkondo. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Can I just say, you are one of those people who I feel personally like you're taking me on that journey through your poetry. You've caught me up in it. You're so animated when you're speaking your poetry. It's amazing. And I work in a school, and let me tell you, the kids would love you because you are so into it all. They would just, well, they would be enthralled by it, as I'm sure your audience tonight have been, because honestly, that is amazing. Is there anything else you want to perform for us?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, good, good. Love this.
Okay, thank you again for giving me your time. And so I spoke in the previous poem of those, silhouettes that we cast, and I think those are the cracks of our pride with which we intend to, incessantly occupy those spaces that we are reclaiming. So the ordering of our rich history, the honoring of the unbreakable will of our people. So we now stand in front of the camera knowing that we are photogenic and nothing else. So no caricatures, no misrepresentation. So excuse my photogenic smile. We are genetically disposed to being kind to the camera lens in every sense of our movement, and to think we were once cast as mere silhouettes in the shadows of the silver screen, cartoons of sambos on puppet strings, nooses around our voices, which fell from their high octaves and punctured black holes in our skin. Yet no one could predict that from those black holes, a new generation of stars would soon emerge, fully baptized with light, reclaiming the sky as their personal quilt. To think we were once boxed into frames too small to contain our ravenous spirit, caged inside reels of tape that spun tales to entertain audiences addicted to the masking of our pain, thick red lips that opened only to amuse ghosts in the machine, while we remained haunted by our own reality's motion pictures, with no director to scream cut to the stubborn rope around our necks, then point us towards our trailers to powder our battered face. Yet still, excuse my confident stride onto the stage. I stole a page from the Amazonians, whose warrior breasts left seasoned fighters buckling at the knees. And to think once our majesty was unseen, but that someday these stubborn narratives would soon arise, like this one, with the force of raging rivers cutting through stone, surging forward, reclaiming our stories, our truths, our tribal masks, and our youth. Now look at our laughter. Once a punchline, now rings with a clarity that shatters a billion echoes of caricatures, replacing them with windows into the soul of a people reaching everything else that can never be stolen. our tears, no longer a spectacle, reveal the ocean depths of our humanity, and on whose ocean bed you find written upon the sand our own sacred mythologies, unscripted tales of such beauty that as they evaporate into the sky, our stories find new eyes and ears amongst unknown civilizations beyond. The camera, once an eye of distortion, now tears up at the fullness of our being, with the crisp piano keys along the spine of our lips as an invitation to song, a symphony composed of an infinite chorus of notes, and each performance harmonized into a powerful anthem resonating with the truth that our lives, our stories, and our dreams do matter. Through this lens, we look not only at ourselves, but into the heart of all who witness our glory, declaring boldly that Black has defied time, that Black is now seen. We are the storytellers until eternity, and this is our time to shine. Kabadela. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I was on that journey with you again. You're taking me with you. Right, I've asked a lot of questions tonight. Maybe there is someone who's been watching who'd like to ask a question. Is there anyone here tonight who'd like to ask Somkonto a question that I haven't already asked? If you do want to ask a question, please unmute and speak, okay?
Somkonto, just to say thank you for those very, very powerful poems. You
Thank
took
you.
me on the way. I imagined all that you were saying. Your visuals were brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And thank you for taking time out of your day to listen and to hopefully be inspired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you perform your poetry at poetry events or
Yes,
whatever?
Yes, I do. You know, it's quite interesting the world we entered in, you know, during COVID, because we created audiences and friendships, you know, that just opened out of nowhere from ourselves being confined. So it's quite interesting when you are at an event that's in person, and you know, getting those jitters before you step on stage. And I noticed that it's the same jitters even now, even when I enter a Zoom. I guess it's because words matter so much. And yes, I do perform in person, but I feel it's the actual, you know, experience of sharing that makes it an even more worthy way to spend one's time. I think as a poet now more than ever, we are called to say something and you know, plant as many flower gardens as possible with words.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I come from Scotland. I'm on the Scottish island, so
Oh, that's wonderful.
that's the good thing about, you know,
Yeah,
this
I've seen the
worldwide.
yeah, it's always all the pictures I've seen of the countryside. It's like this greenery that is fascinating. So
Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question before we ask Somkonto to perform again?
Yes, hello there. All the way from Tanzania.
habari gani?
Zuri. Asante sana.
Asante. Asante.
Asante sana. So me, I don't have the words. I'm just very, what's the word? There's no words. It was just great to be in the midst of your art and your journey. Your voice it takes us on that amazing journey. As our amazing host was saying today, you take us, we feel your passion. We'll feel your art. It's so deep rooted in you. And I just want to say asante sana Zomkonto. I think his camera is frozen.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Ah.
Oh, it's frozen.
No, not anymore. You're back.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I was just saying, just truly honored to be in your atmosphere and in your energy, and it's amazing. From Tanzania, asante sana.
Njioni njema.
Asante.
Thank you. That was beautiful and humbling. Thank you so much.
See, so as everyone said, you're taking us on that journey. And now, can you take us on one final journey before we finish?
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
I would love that. So I was thinking perhaps I'll close in this way. I don't know how many people know Angela Davis. She's an activist. She was part of the Black Panther Party. And there's something about Angela Davis' afro, so anyone who's seen that woman's hair and on this tribute to the power and the beauty and the everlasting endurance of the Black spirit, I picture myself as her comb, right? So picture me as her comb that gets the privilege to run through her beautiful planet of an afro each morning. So she keeps an afro, Digiac, sensual right down to the hair follicles. Ask I, the Afrocomb that frolics inside its pitch black density, if there will ever be any superior strokes to disentangle the roots that shoot out of the chimney of her blackened thoughts. And this is what my bullet-ridden corpse would say. I turn her inside out, while the rubric of her scalp's pubics is to turn my metal outside in. I am Angela's Afro's chosen one, the delicate collision inside her sacred crown. I awaken her with military drills, boots stomping upon Dawn's cheeks until they blush blood red on the horizon, ready to march through the lush thicket of her mane. Her Amazon of curls, a praying mantis, in whose tender grip my wind chimes of psalms are answered, gliding through tendrils the color of midnight, choking on volcanic ashes and watching them down with the turbulent silence of her morning panther meditation. I am her metal lover, tracing every curve, caressing the rhythm of each coil, and in her hair I lose myself until the friction has turned me into a lightning conductor. Her electricity mine, her afro a halo of defiance, power loom weaving each strand of lightning into guitar strings for the forbidden funk in her soul. A wild symphony of black silk spiraling in a waterfall of rebellion. And from the baptism, I am fully charged. A fully blown afro Digiac, a series of echoes disentangling, unfurling like 1,000 fists in a breeze made of glass. We dance in intimate whispers, I, the explorer of a galaxy, mapping constellations of railroads for dream seekers, to wish upon braided notes of wind, each twist a revolution, each kink a song, a clamp of stories, ancestors, warriors, classified secrets, sonnets, prayers for her aphrodisiac. She is my muse, and I, her loyal devotee in this ritual of love and unknotting. Her afro is an intoxicating garden where I roam freely, entwined in the magic of her being, knowing as the day breaks, as the day breaks, as the day breaks, as the day breaks, and she steps into the world, she carries with her the echoes of our sensual dance, each strand a national anthem to our undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable truth. Zomkhonto, Gabatela, Zilangata, Pakazi.
thank you so much. I don't
Thank
really
you.
want it to
Yeah.
end, but unfortunately it does have to end. But that has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
sure everyone who's been on tonight will agree that has been a brilliant performance. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
thank you for being a wonderful person to interview as well. That was really, I really enjoyed that.
Thank you for being a wonderful interviewer. Thank you for appreciating me in your space. Thank you for the invitation. And to everyone that was listening, thank you for believing in the power and magic of words. And may you also go out into the world gracefully and spread your magic of words and the love of the love of everything that changes people's world. Yeah, well,
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zon Conto, and thank you for being our featured writer tonight. Thank you. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to our other performers tonight, who were Antoinette, Jacqueline, Wayne, I've forgotten who. Oh, sorry, but how could I forget Betty? She was here with me tonight. How could I forget her? That is terrible. And of course, the amazing Zom Conto. Thank you all so much. And we'd also like to say that we do hope that Andrew and Yemma, who were going to perform tonight, but who were both ill, both feel better soon. So sorry that we didn't see you tonight, but I'm sure we'll see you at a future event. Okay, thank you. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I'm sure you'll agree it's been amazing entertainment tonight. Really, really good. And let's be honest, it's been better than the telly, hasn't it? Okay? So hopefully we'll see you at other events, and hopefully we will see you at the next poetry, music and spoken word event by Global Fusion Music and Arts. We have been Global Fusion Music and Arts. Thank you to Ed for letting everyone in. Thank you for Jill and Louisa for organising and holding it all together. Thank you everyone, and we'll see you at the next event. Good night.